My guests are Mr. Alan Kaplan. Mr. Kaplan is the president and CEO of a New Jersey-based company called Pi Technologies. My other guest is Mr. David Kaplan. Mr. Kaplan is the vice president of research, engineering, and development at Pi Technologies. Cobalt.com on the internet describes New Year's Eve, January 1, 2000. Dick Clark is in New York counting down the seconds before the ball drops, celebrating the arrival of the new millennium. The next minute, planes fall from the sky. Your bank is out of business and your job has disappeared. From then on, your life will become a Y2K nightmare. Come January 1, 2000, most computers will think it's January 1, 1900. Whether it's the computers that track our nation's money supply or control our missile defense system, if it hasn't been re-engineered to recognize year 2000, it will fail. That means that approximately 180 billion lines of computer code have to be rewritten with enough time to spare for testing. It has become known as the Y2K problem or bug. With less than 700 days left before year 2000, an increasingly large segment of American workers face technological displacement, and both the business sector and the general population face the Y2K predicament, better known as the year 2000 problem, the millennium problem, or simply the year 2000 date problem. Unfortunately, the media pays more attention to the president's dog than to the Y2K predicament. What is wrong is very simple to understand. Several decades ago, when computers were very expensive, the information systems experts decided to conserve hardware by storing the year in 2 digits instead of 4. For example, 62 instead of 1962 for 1962. Up to now, that has worked because the computers assumed that year data were always preceded by 19. This assumption breaks down, however, at midnight 1999 or January 1, 2000, when the computer reads 00 and puts 19 in front of the zeros, assuming the year to be 1900 instead of 2000. Because microprocessor chips largely control an automated society, program failure or logic errors can cause massive business failures, resulting in catastrophic unemployment and social upheavals. The Defense Daily reports that the Pentagon is among 14 of 24 major federal agencies not on track to fix their 2000 computer problem by the millennium change. Defense, at its current progress rate, will not finish Y2K software fixes to its, quote, mission-critical systems, end quote, until 2012. Only the Departments of Labor and Energy lag behind the Pentagon. Those agencies should complete software fixes by 2019. On a more mundane level, elevators will be inoperative. Airplane traffic will be out of control. Government checks will not be processed. Bank failures, a collapse of credit system, overall chaos. An internal memorandum at a major corporation dated December 17, 1997 advised senior management, and I'd like to read this memo to you. I would like to pass on my thoughts on what an adequate plan for the year 2000, aka the millennium problem, might be. I'm still very concerned that we are not taking this problem seriously enough. According to the August 96 edition of the Journal of Systems Management, malfunctioning systems that are not year 2000 compliant can threaten the survival of the business. They go on to say that the toughest part of dealing with the year 2000 problem may not be figuring out what needs to be done and then doing it, but changing people's attitudes and, I would add, priorities. Since the latest that the problem will impact us is 10/1/99, fiscal 2000, and we should have at least 6 months schedule reserve for contingency planning, then a prudent plan would have testing in no later than April 1, 1999. If you believe, however, that we will have a problem starting fiscal 1999 because of the 99 equal end of run problem, then with 6 months reserve, we have to have a plan with testing complete no later than April 1, 1998. That's only 4 months away. The correct date is obviously somewhere in between. Whatever date you pick, there isn't much time. We also need to have a disaster plan. Now, this is the interesting part. We also need to have a disaster plan, this management memo says. It has to be treated just as we treat civil disorder, earthquakes or fires. We need a disaster plan that includes mitigation and relief. What happens if there are gross shortages of the basics of food and gasoline? How will our employees get to work? Even if we pay them, how will they get to work? Should we start communicating this to our employees and suggest they plan for it? This is the end of the memo. Most organizations have an average of 50 million lines of source code that needs to be modified by common business-oriented language, called COBOL. And fixing this year 2000 date problem will cost about $1 for each line of code. That's a cost of $50 million to each large company and $600 billion worldwide. Military applications have been estimated as high as $9 a line, almost 10 times the cost of a large business. At the same time, 250,000 jobs in computer technology are going begging, while the number of college graduates with a degree in computer science has fallen by 43%. Large companies are taking over small companies, not for their profit, but for their computer-trained personnel. Unfortunately, 50% of last year's non-technically trained college graduates are still unemployed, and the average debt from college loans is $18,800. If you're in denial, you can make a case for education and business as usual. Or, like my guests on this program, you can see the enormous opportunity amid the year 2000 computer crisis for a new model for education and training, a new skill set and growth in employment for people with only minimal computer skills in a highly skilled and technical world, and an opportunity for companies and government agencies to become millennium proof. I'm Tony Brown. In a moment, the Y2K problem.